Okay, this is going to be short and sweet because I think we're going to have a lot more to say about these films after you watch them. But welcome to The Quiet Earth. This is Jeff Murphy's 1985 post apocalyptic science fiction film. And it is a last man on Earth story. It fits into that New Zealand idea I talked about, the man alone. And I loved this film when I saw it. I didn't see it in 1985. I actually saw it for the first time a few years ago, and it's so different than other films like that. I mean, I'm a big fan of these kinds of films. I love apocalyptic films, not the special effects like films like Deep Impact and Armageddon. I don't like those, but I like stories about dealing with yourself. You know, when you have to deal with yourself. Actually, I have to amend that. I used to like films like this until we all went into lockdown. Until this year, I loved films like The Quiet Earth, and I thought, oh, I would love to live in this world that this guy's living in. Or remember Burgess Meredith in that Twilight Zone episode, Time Enough at Last, where the whole world is destroyed and he's just left with all of his books. That doesn't end very well, by the way. But I loved those kinds of films. And then I remember thinking when I was putting this course together during quarantine, I thought, oh, I'm done with this genre. I don't want to, I take it back. I do not want to be alone like this ever again. I had to spend way too much time with myself, which was very productive, actually, in a lot of ways. But also, I'm done. I've had enough. So anyway, I hope this film. I think this is actually a great film to watch in our current state because even though, if you're hating being in lockdown, I think most people are. And it might kind of bother you. I think you'll actually understand this guy. I think had we watched this film years ago or last year or whatever, we wouldn't have been able to identify, and we would have had to think, well, I wonder what that. I don't know what that would feel like. I wonder what that would be like. Well, now I think we kind of know what this guy's going through, except he gets to go outside and do lots of other things. So. Anyway, I like The Quiet Earth, and actually New Zealanders love The Quiet Earth, and in a 2014 poll of all the citizens who cared to respond, they voted The Quiet Earth the 10th greatest New Zealand film ever made. So that's our film. Jeff Murphy is an interesting director. He started out with the film Goodbye Pork Pie in 1981, and it was the first New Zealand film to attract large-scale audiences in its home country. It's a low-budget road movie. Remember I talked about that road? And it's about three people traveling from the North Island to the bottom of the South Island, and as they go along their way, they gain more and more infamy. So it's, there's a lot of lawlessness in New Zealand. I mean, what do? You break the law all the time and go insane when you're in a country so remote. So that was his first film. Then he directed the second film that I want you to see. It's for free on YouTube, and I will include the link when I send out the email with all the links. And it's really considered a Maori Western, and that's Utu, made in 1983. It was co-written by Jeff Murphy and Maori actor Anzac Wallace, who stars in the film as Tawiki, a warrior who sets out to get vengeance after British forces kill his family and his village. He actually starts out as one of the Maori who's fighting with the British. So he's one of those Maori allied folks in the beginning until they take out his village, and then he switches gears. That film also stars the same actor that is in The Quiet Earth, Bruno Lawrence. And so Bruno Lawrence made Utu, and then he made The Quiet Earth, and he just became, one of New Zealand's most famous and iconic actors, locally known mostly only to New Zealanders, unlike someone like Sam Neill, who became an international star. But I really like Utu, and in fact, while I was watching it, I remember in our discussion, I think it was last week in our discussion, someone brought up Clint Eastwood films, the spaghetti westerns, and while I was watching Utu, I thought this is, if you like Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns, mostly his later stuff like Outlaw Josie Wales. I would say that Utu is similar in tone and characters to something like Outlaw Josie Wales. And even if you don't like those Eastwood films, I really hope you'll give Utu a chance because I'm not a big fan of war movies and all of that kind of stuff. But this one has really interesting characters and it will help you visualize and understand the New Zealand wars. And it's told from, you know, the Maori perspective. There are white perspectives too. Bruno Lawrence has his white colonizer perspective, and there's a couple of other white characters. But Te Wiki, it's really kind of his culture and his perspective, and it shows the Maori who cross over to the colonizer side, and then the white people who kind of join forces. I think there's a couple white people who are sympathetic to the Maori tribes who are trying to save their land, save their culture from the settlers. So it's very interesting in that way. There's a couple of gross moments of violence. It is a war type film, but stick with it because I think you're going to get a lot out of it. So I hope you have time. It's long. It's 2 hours long. So set aside enough time. Maybe don't watch it right before we have our discussion, unless you get up at 6 a.m. Then maybe so you can process it. But I really would like you to see both. They're both very different, and I think those two films together, I think, completely encapsulate the whole New Zealand cinema identity and a lot of their cultural identity. So between the two, I think you'll get a very good idea of everything I talked about in my intro to New Zealand. I think that's it. I'm going to let you go, and thanks for hanging in there. And when you see this, it will already have been Thanksgiving, so I hope you had a lovely and safe Thanksgiving with whomever you chose to spend it with. And I will see you all soon to have a talk. Bye.